Let's go back in time, way back. Imagine a civilization so powerful, they built towers that practically scraped the sky. An incredible story, right? But what if their greatest strength was also their biggest weakness? Well, today we're diving into the story of the people of Ad, a tribe whose power was legendary out there in the ancient deserts.
And look, they weren't kidding. The people of Ad were famous for being amazing builders and just unbelievably strong. We're talking about homes carved right into the sides of mountains, towers so tall you'd get dizzy looking up. They were, for all intents and purposes, an ancient superpower.
But you know how it goes, right? With great power comes a great test. And all those incredible buildings, those very towers they were so famous for, they started to cast this long, dark shadow over their hearts. And it's in that shadow, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, all that success started to twist into something else. It wasn't just confidence anymore. It was this deep, really dangerous pride. They'd look at their amazing cities, feel their own strength, and start to think, hey, we're invincible. We did all this by ourselves.
That pretty much became their motto. And just like that, they totally forgot where all their blessings actually came from. They stopped being kind, they stopped looking out for people who needed help, and they turned their backs on God, on Allah, to worship these statues they'd made with their own hands. You know, just lifeless idols that couldn't see a thing or hear a word.
You can almost see the trade-off happening right here. For every massive home they put up, a little piece of their kindness disappeared. For every tall tower that reached for the sky, they pushed down the weak. The stronger they got physically, the more their gratitude just vanished. They were building this huge, impressive, but ultimately empty empire.
But hold on, not everyone was caught up in this. Living right there among them was this really kind and honest man, Prophet Hud. He saw the dangerous cliff his people were walking towards, and he just knew he had to try and do something about it.
His message was so simple, and he delivered it gently. He wasn't yelling or being aggressive, he was just reminding them of the truth. He basically said, hey everyone, all this, your strength, these incredible homes, it's all a gift. The right response here isn't arrogance, it's gratitude.
And what did they do? They just laughed in his face. Their pride was like this massive wall. They couldn't hear his wisdom because the noise of their own self-praise was just too loud. They honestly, truly believed nothing could ever touch them.
And listen, this wasn't a one-and-done conversation. This went on for days, which turned into months, which turned into years. He kept trying, patiently reminding them, but their hearts just got harder and harder. Until finally, they threw down this chilling challenge, basically daring God to do something.
So, after they made that final, arrogant challenge, things started to get weird. The first sign wasn't some big, dramatic storm. It was silence. A creeping, eerie dryness that was about to test their pride in a whole new way.
A really bad drought took hold of the land. I mean, the rain just stopped. Their crops withered, the rivers dried up, and the whole land that had supported them was basically gasping for water. And even then, Hud pleaded with them, telling them, look, just ask for forgiveness and the rain will come back. But no, they refused to bend.
And then, one day, bam, a massive dark cloud appears on the horizon, and the people, they went nuts. They ran outside, they were cheering, celebrating. They thought their ordeal was finally over. They were so sure they had won.
But while all his people were out there partying, Prophet Hud was just watching that same cloud, and his face was dead serious. He knew this wasn't the relief they were all hoping for. Oh no, this was the answer to that challenge they had so arrogantly made.
And boom, just like that, the party's over. The celebration turned to pure terror. That hopeful-looking cloud was about to reveal its true, devastating nature. The reckoning they had literally asked for had arrived.
Because what came out of that cloud, it wasn't rain, it was a wind. And I'm not talking about a little breeze here. This thing was a furious, howling gale that sounded like a monster. It just grew stronger and stronger, shaking their mighty buildings and tearing through their city for days and nights on end.
So, the same people who were shouting "nothing can beat us" were now screaming in absolute panic. They were completely terrified and helpless, as the very foundations of their proud civilization were just ripped apart. They finally realized the truth, but it was way, way too late. And this is where you really see the split, right? While the arrogant were just terrified and overwhelmed by the storm, Prophet Hud and the few people who had actually listened to him, they were perfectly safe. They were calm, they were secure, totally protected from all that chaos and ready to start a new beginning, one founded on humility, not pride.
So when the wind finally died down, the mighty city of Ad was just gone. But what was left behind in the dust was this incredibly powerful story, with lessons that are just as important for us today as they were thousands of years ago.
So what are we supposed to take away from all this? Well, the story really boils it down to a few key things. First off, don't let success make you proud. Second, always be kind and fair to other people. Third, be open to good advice, especially when it might be tough to hear. And finally, trust in a higher power and be grateful every single day. These are the pillars that actually last, long after any stone tower has crumbled into dust.
And really, that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? The story of Ad teaches us that the greatest things we can ever build aren't with our hands, but with our hearts. True, lasting strength, that's found in being humble, being kind, and doing the right thing. It makes you stop and think, right? What kind of strength are we actually building in our own lives?